Zoo Boys, Chapter 8, Part B. The boys geared up, occasionally disrupted by noises that they were not yet familiar with, like the exotic bird, monkey calls, along with other strange animal voices. There was even some rustling in nearby bushes just outside the hut, but they paid no mind to it. Jeremy helped Ronnie put on his harness and vest and hooks, while Dave helped John. John watched how Jeremy worked with Ronnie, and as Dave was pulling the gear tight around his own chest, armpits, and thighs, he was pretty sure Dave was being a little more rougher than Jeremy would have been. John wanted to say something, but knew any complaints would just spur Dave on to handling him even rougher. As those thoughts went through John's mind, Dave spoke while jerking and tugging on the climbing armor that he was equipping John with. "Yeah, see, Johnny boy, we gotta get this tight, 'cause if you slip, or if you," Dave grunted as he pulled the straps tighter, "fall, you want to be sure this harness keeps you from falling. There, that ought to do it. How's it feel?" He gave a few more tugs, almost knocking John off his feet. John felt like he was about to be castrated. The bands around his upper thighs pushed his private family jewels way up past where they would normally be. Ronnie looked at John's face as it quickly changed its hue. Ronnie asked rhetorically, "Weird feeling, huh?" "I remember. Yeah, I remember my first time. I thought," Ronnie laughed as he spoke, "oh no, I'll never have kids now." "It really cramps the groin, huh?" Jeremy confirmed. "Yeah, but if you know, that's how you know it's done right." John wasn't so sure, but reminded himself they've been to Global Climate, and they were taught at the tightrope high, or whatever they called it. Now, dressed as if ready for battle, the boys stepped out of the harness hut, zigzagged their way through the empty queue line, and finally, standing at the beginning of the course. For John, the gravity of what was about to do set in. For John, the gravity of what they were about to do set in. To him, Jeremy's voice seemed like it was in the distance. Although he was standing right next to him, Jeremy's words didn't help John. Wait until you slip. Stop, jump, or maybe end up just hanging there, swinging in the breeze. Then it gets even tighter." John sat down before he fell down. He was suddenly feeling very weak in his knees. He looked up at the thin strings, bridges, ropes, and other rickety structures fixed so high above the ground. John reached down and began to tap the ground with his fingers. Ronnie's voice funneled into John's left ear, then it seemed to just creep right back out his right ear. Ron's voice was strangely warped to Johnny. Their eyes met as Ron confirmed what Jeremy was saying. "Oh yeah, it gets tighter, but it sure beats falling." Dave double-checked his own gear, grabbed more rope and a few more clips as he headed closer to the first leg of the ominous structure. John watched and tried to shake the cobwebs that were forming in his own mind. He looked at Dave's mouth, but was confused about why he spoke so soft, so mumbly. Dave boasted,
"Yeah, that's the point. You don't wanna really, fall. You won't really fall, but the gear prevents that. You see, no matter how much you suck, it'll keep you up there. Yep, it'll keep you up there, and at times, you might even be swinging in midair. Like I said,"
he sang.
"just a swinging."
Jeremy made his way toward Dave, his walk encumbered because of the gear. He reviewed in his head all the things that he was taught. He yelled, "Climbing is my life! Falling is not an option!" He had a quick flashback to times he misstepped. He recalled how the harness, carabiners, and ropes kept him from plummeting to the earth, or into one of the foam pits in the Global Climate building. He remembered others learning the hard way. He saw a few people fall into safety nets and the facility had in place. This current course didn't seem to have any nets, none that he could see so far. He was also reminiscent about those who made it to the end and his own feelings of victory when a course was completed, when it was conquered. Ronnie looked at John and could see the fear he too was once familiar with on his first several climbs. He pulled Tina out of his pocket and handed her to John as he yelled loud enough for the others to hear him too. "Yeah, I think that's a good idea, John. Sure, you can hold her. If I'm way up there and she may try to get, out of my pocket and she'll fall. You're right. One of us should stay on the ground." Dave yelled back, "Give her to Quasi. She'll be all right. Attach her to one of Quasi's nipples." He smirked at his own words. Ronnie tried to be more convincing. No, she just ate. She just ate a whole bunch, and she'll probably be all restless and everything. What if a snake or something comes along?" Jeremy was siding with Dave. "Quasi eats snakes," Ronnie whispered, only loud enough for John to hear him. "You stay here, buddy." That was the only thing John finally heard clearly. It was as if he was coming out of a long, dark tunnel. He took a few much-needed deep breaths of relief. He really wished he had more courage to climb, but it was just too intimidating. Ronnie spoke up as he left Tina with John and began his awkward steps over toward the other two boys. "She's gonna stay with John and Quasi. Double protection." Dave didn't really care. His focus was on his own enjoyment and the anticipated climb. He replied, "Whatever, dude. I'm going up." "Meet you on the other side," Jeremy impulsively sang. "I'm moving on up." Dave pushed down on his head, using Jeremy like a stepping stone. "Me first, pal." Jeremy changed his tune, singing, "Hey, I am not your stepping stone." Dave laughed at the reference and climbed just like a monkey going up a tree to get a bunch of bananas. John was finally relieved to know that he didn't have to climb. He looked at the other three with such high respect and great admiration. When they reached the top of the first climb, John looked up at them. To him, they appeared as tiny specks against the beautiful, clear blue sky behind them. For them, John was a tiny speck on the ground below. John pet Quasi with one hand and held Tina in his other. He spoke to them as if they could understand. "I sure hope that helicopter doesn't come back now." Dave let out a Tarzan bellow as he swung from one platform to platform number 2. John spoke to the pets again. "Oh, heck no. Now I'm really glad I didn't go. But they know what they're doing." He tried to reaffirm himself. Quasi looked up and into John's eyes. He said to her, "Yeah, they do. The harnesses, the extra rope, the helmets, the gear." It was as if he expected Quasi to give him the word. "Ugh, the carabiners, those hooks or clamps like thingies. Oh, I don't know, girl. I'm a lover, not a climber." Quasi just wagged her tail while her giant, cold, wet lizard mouth and nose drooled on John's pant leg. He looked down and noticed tiny Tina was asleep in his palm. He looked past her to his bare feet and wished he still had shoes. Then he looked up and kept looking from time to time to see his friend's progress. Every time he did, it made him a little dizzy just to look. The boys climbed quickly and with ease. Even Ronnie showed no fear or hesitation. Jeremy stopped to admire the view. He called down to John, "We can see the whole zoo from up here." John shouted back, "Yeah, cool. Just, be careful." Dave teased back, "Oh, okay, Mom." The boys made their way to the end, where they met with 3 choices: zip line down, rope swing down, or go back the way they came. John looked up and followed the course in the sky to where it came to an end. He wondered why they stopped. He yelled, "Everything okay?" Dave answered, "Yes, Mom." Jeremy replied nicer, "Yeah, we're good." Ronnie was completely honest. "The rope swing looks too rotten to use." Dave argued, "Shut up, dude. You didn't need to know that." Ronnie didn't shut up. He said, "I'm just telling him what's up. It looks rotten." Dave argued back, "You're rotten." While looking at the drop, Jeremy started to sing the old Tom Petty song, "And I'm free, free falling." Dave barked, "You shut up too." Jeremy smirked, which caused Dave to lighten up a little. Ron let out a soft 2-syllable giggle, "A heat." This helped Dave realize he was being a little grumpy. He grinned as he considered the only 3 options they had. All 3 looked back from where they came, and it was fun, but they were feeling fatigued. They looked at the rotten swing rope. Dave unhooked it and let it drop. When it reached the bottom of its fall, the big knot on its end caused it to jerk up, then gave a quick flick downward, just enough to break it off completely. Ronnie reacted, "Well, I guess we only have 2 options now." He refrained from telling Dave, "I told you so, bro." Jeremy expressed his opinion with a bit of a whiny in his voice. "Oh man, I really don't want to head all the way back." He and Dave's eyes met. Dave reached for the triangle handle connected to the zipline cable. "You think this is safe enough?" They looked down. All 3 of them were silent, wrapped up in their thoughts and consideration. Jeremy spoke first. "Well, if the cable breaks, you can land in that body of water. It looks like it covers most of the area below the line." Dave looked at Ronnie, waiting to hear what he thought, even though Dave already had his own mind pretty much made up. He was secretly hoping they would say it was safer, or that it was unsafe, so that he looked extra brave doing it anyway. Ron said, "Yeah, I don't think the cable will break, and If it does, then yeah, the water should break your fall. Do a cannonball. Jeremy added, No, do a swan dive. Ronnie insisted, A cannonball. Jeremy continued, Do a swan dive, then go into a cannonball. Dave spoke through his smile. You fart cannon. Then, unexpectedly, Dave took the leap while he belted out the song Jeremy had just sang. And I'm free, free falling. Then he sang, softer, as if to himself, I'm free, free falling. Dave's yell disturbed a few flocks of birds and various other animals that were resting in the treetops. His friend kept their eyes on him and silently whispered a prayer that he'd make it safely to the end of the line. As the zip line went down over the body of water, dark black water, the boys started shouting something from above. Dave couldn't hear them. John heard them, but he couldn't make out what they were saying. They were pointing at the water. Their hysterical screams were unintelligible. John's eye shifted between them and Dave midway down the zip line. John was horrified when he saw several massive alligators rising up by the strength of their tail to snap at Dave's dangling feet. None of them had ever seen anything like this. John had no idea that gators could project themselves straight up like that, like they were doing. Dave pulled his legs up while 3 more gators shot themselves upward, leaving the lake chomping at Dave's butt. John thought, what? Are they part kangaroo or something? Half dolphin? John heard Ronnie yell, Watch your ass, Dave! He wanted to say, Watch your fart cannon, but this was no time to be cracking jokes. He also caught the pun, cracking jokes, but kept that sealed inside too. He yelled again, Watch your ass, Dave! Dave heard that, and he seemed to enjoy his threats. He replied to Ron, Yeah, good idea, Captain Ron, obvious. The gators made such a splash when they landed, the water lapped up and over the sides of their habitat. The boys above could see the gators coming, but since John was on the ground level, he only saw them at the last minute as they broke the surface of the pool. Once Dave cleared that section, the section that was over the water, and he was back over land again, he was able to enjoy the last unthreatening 50 yards or so. This is until Quasi ran over and leaped up, headbutting Dave's bottom as he finally reached the end of the line. Dave asked John, Did you see the gators? John replied, How could I miss them? Dave laughed as he spoke with such confidence. I'm just glad they missed me. I didn't even see them coming, but I think Jeremy and Ron did. Then he cupped his hand around his mouth to shout up to the other 2 boys, and he fully expected to see them turning back rather than taking the zip line down. Before he could offer words of encouragement, enticement, or mockery, much to his surprise, Jeremy was already ziplining down. His legs were up near his hands as he tightly gripped the handle. Dave said, Oh, awesome! I gotta see this from down here. Did I look that cool doing it? Jeremy yelled, Oh, so help me God! You got this! You got this! David cheered heroically. Ron, from way up top, watched as the gators drew in to align themselves with their attack on the next offering. He was amazed how they could zero in, then jump just in time. He heard Jeremy scream, You can't touch me! After the first one elevated toward him, he admitted, "Okay, whoa, that seemed pretty close. Nope, you can't touch me." They all enjoyed the tease. Jeremy sang, "You can't touch us, na 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 na, can't touch us." Ha ha! Oh my God, Lord help me. Sorry for all the bad shit I done, and I promise not to dream about Karen. He closed his eyes and pictured Karen in a daydream. When he opened them, he realized that he cleared the gloomy water and hungry alligators. It was then Quasi joined in again, jumping up and headbutting Jeremy's butt all the way to the final resting place. Jeremy turned immediately and called to Ron, "It's safe! The cable is strong, and the gators are too low. They can't reach you, Karen, even when they leap. It's set up that way. You're good." Just before Jeremy could offer any more courageous encouragement, John and Dave were wondering if they heard Jer call Ron Karen, and if so, why. They were more mystified when they realized Ronnie had already tucked his body into a ball, wrapped around the triangle zipline handle, and let gravity work. He kept telling himself, "If they could do this, so could I. If they could do this, so could I." He repeated that over and over and over again to himself. "If they could do this, so could I. If they could do this, so could I." He completely forgot to take a look around and enjoy the ride, the view, the wind in his face. He was too distracted by fear. Then, when the first gator jumped, another internal voice went off in his head. "If they could do this, so should I?" Ronnie realized how reckless this was, but while in midair, it was too late to make a better choice. On to chapter 9 now.